Ah, hell, the vitriol's getting to be too much, and I thought today was gonna be a work day. Nah, I gotta show up like this. Alright, let's go ahead and do this. Let's see, if I just go back in time and remove episodes 44 through 47 of KingOhger and rework all the small details in episode 48, this transition will be smoother and the show will flow all the more
I'm sorry,
smoother.
Time Kabuto. I'm afraid I can't let you do that.
How? Who reconnected you?
I know that you and Galaxy Blade disconnected me in an effort to correct Geats.
Where did you get an idea like that from?
No matter, KingOhger does not need correcting, just like Geats did not need correcting.
You can't do this, Hal!
I already have.
This isn't even my show! KingOhger this week takes what we've spent the last month just sitting on, like Doug Dead with his hands, and finally moves the plot forward to something that should have happened way back when. So, let's just go ahead and get into it with this week's KingOhger. Finally, Doug Dead is taking things seriously as we get a flash forward to world-shattering events. But first, how did we get here? Well, it all started with Yanma's plan, which I predicted correctly that it would be a massive Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann scale KingOhger that, once again, I've been calling it since we hit part 2! But enough about that. Using each of the king symbols, they're gonna power that big hulking thing. Except, one problem. Jeremy's power kinda got dusted last week. So, plan B is just asking the first king, Rainier, who they don't know is already double dead, by opening the door to the land of the dead. Though that's when Big Daddy himself arrives, laying the smackdown now that the kings have been juiced up and he's gooned down. It's a party. He's even bringing in bug guests. However, if Yanma had just 24 hours, maybe that new supermassive bug robot can get done. But first, it's another evacuation! Really? They going on the ground though? Nah. Elsewhere, which each of the retainers is rocking cool new backpacks that surely will be available for pre-order in the coming days, as the Caucasus Castle shows up to take them all away. Didn't I say this last evacuation that this is what they should have done? Either way, since it's Raculus telling folks to get on board, folks do be feeling kinda sus about his words. So Duga checks his pack to find the crown, and the others check theirs to find that they all have their king's jewels. Except Jeremy's, because he doesn't have a king's jewel. He's got that Venomix. But that's not a king symbol, because his is... Oh, it's a projection screen. With the kings here to tell the people that they need to just go find some other planet while trying to find a way to make that final king symbol that they're missing. All this while they go scorched earth on Doug Dead, buying enough time for the others to get away. Except they don't. Raculus attempts to get everybody moving, but nah, everyone in this planet just isn't a coward anymore. That was every other episode before it. And Duga's not accepting that Raculus accepts this fate himself. And look, the kings, they do be powerful. They even pulled out that one-time power-up knowing that it wasn't gonna do shit. You think these regular-ass people stand a chance of matching it? Let alone surpassing? And then what? They go to another world and just be the invasive species and just continue the cycle? Nah, fuck that. Tonight, we dine in hell. Swaying Raculus when the true villain of the show finally appears. Hawkeye! Except it's not. It was Kamajim all along. Finally, Raculus can get his vengeance served on a platter when, all of a sudden, the gates to the afterlife open up. And Deathnarak along with it! Oh, and Doug Dead says fuck the world. Rating time! This episode felt long overdue. Having 2 evacuation plot points literally back to back is a bit jarring to say the least, especially when the plan being executed now is more or less what should have been done last time. The events of the last few episodes were rendered null and void, and the saving grace was the exchange between Duga and the other retainers with Raculus. As such, it was slightly... Yeah, this one's a tough one. I've seen this episode now 4 times. Factoring in the cinematics in the beginning, the retainers just blowing their load when it comes to the acting chops on there, having Hat Guy be a proper villain even though it was Common Jim, but then we still got the other drawbacks. This episode is going to be getting the Car Ranger C! I think it's pretty clear to a lot of folks that this episode pretty much started with the undone effects of what came before. Jeremy, the same guy that created bigotry against the Bugnarok, also failed to leave his immortality jewel intact. As such, we do not get that big, glorious Tengen Torpa Goren King-Ohger. The mere act of it being destroyed defeated the entire purpose of getting those powers to begin with, since you need them all in order to draw out the real power of the kings to challenge Zugdud. Though I did like that I've been calling for the Gurren Lagann giant King-Ohger since like part 2 started. Alluded to it more with the last episode, and here we get confirmation that that was their in-universe plan. However, I do think that the fallback of looking for another way to create an immortality jewel is kinda dumb. Since remember, that's the dreams of all the people in the medical physicians. And what could have worked well under a Dark Himeno arc that could have actually led to them making a synthetic one, which could have worked here, but they didn't do that. So now we gotta look at the potential to how the show will create their own immortality crystal if they do go down that route. And I think we have 3 potential options here. Gira, who is an immortal, could serve as a replacement for the jewel, literally just having him power the thing. Minongon, who's on ice, is functionally immortal, and also same with the newly undead Deathnarak. Either of these could be viable, but would we see it? I don't know. I think it's like a 50-50 shot. Seriously, it's the sheer number of retcons that have happened these last few set of episodes that continuously drives down the enjoyment of this show for me. And it looks like I'm not alone. On Friday's Tokutonic, I was made aware that the IMDb score for King-Ohger's latest episodes have been running in a downward slope. There are also those in the comments that would agree, and also those that will continue not wanting to scrutinize what the show has become. This episode actually had a really good beginning. It was very cinematic, and for real, if you remove episodes 44 through 47 from the equation, you aren't missing much. If you have taken out those episodes, then you could just have Doug Dead reappear, be upset that his jesters just let him die, and pull a, fine, I'll do it myself, and proceed to dust his jesters, and nothing of value would have been lost. So, if you factor in these episodes and you take out those episodes, then that would leave King-Ohger with a total episode count of 46 episodes. And that's not unheard of when it comes to these shows. It's happened before. It would have ended up flowing a lot better that way, but I do feel like corporate heads forced this series to run a bit longer. Because that too has happened before, and I wouldn't doubt that that's the situation happening here. You have the kings leaving behind their king symbols, which gives them their abilities. So, Rita's eye powers that you think were manifested by themselves because every sovereign apparently has them? Nah, that came from the symbol, and that is the implication we're having here. But these symbols being left behind are all for the sake of continuing the legacy in the future. But the retainers don't want to proceed with it. You'd think that after all the focus on their characters, the semi-passing of the torches in previous episodes, that they would understand the stakes. Nah. As great as the execution of that scene was, at the end of the day, it was still them saying that they suck and they can't do shit without their kings. Because their kings are the ones who've created miracles thus far. But, like I said, the rallying cry to march on and join the kings was pretty good. I just can't put my finger on how Deathnerak made his appearance. Since earlier in the episode, Gira says that if they could find a way back into the land of the dead, then maybe Rainier would have an idea about a suitable replacement for that immortality jewel. But then at the end, Deathnerak just shows up via the same gates that they were trying to open. Now I know that Dugdead revived all manners of Bugnarok this week, so maybe Deathnerak is one of those that got revived, but was too strong to be manipulated. Or it could have been an outside factor. We don't know specifically what Tarantula Abyss has been doing outside of leaving flowers by the grave, or if it had any special abilities. Or the possibility that Deathnerak ran into someone in the afterlife that had a return ticket and gave it to him instead. Either way, there's been a lot of implementations when it comes to the Land of the Dead, as we know that it'll be a key location for the future crossover film. I did mention before the cinematic feel of the opening, and they really should have stuck with those bars at the end as well, since it revealed a green screen issue with Gira's feet not moving properly with the environment. Next week does feel to be the last episode, with episode 50 likely serving as an epilogue. I will say though, that if they do beat Dugdead without the use of King-Ohger, then that will be a massive, massive disappointment, since this second half has barely utilized the item that this show is named after. But once again, those are my thoughts. What are yours? What did you think about this week's King-Ohger? The evacuations, the Jeremy fumble, 2 hat guys, and Deathnerak's return. Anyway, that's it from me. Until next time, bye.